I was no prophet, neither did I belong to any of the brotherhood of prophets. I was a shepherd and looked after sycamores, but it was the Lord who took me from heading the flock, and the Lord said, "Go, prophesy to my people Israel." And that is Amos. You'll be able to understand the readings, especially the first reading, after you have gone through the whole chapter. Therefore, today, 15th Sunday, in ordinary time, as I said from the very beginning, the readings speaks much about priests and you leaders as well. We reflect on a theme, riches and the announcement of the good news. Riches and the announcement of announcing the good news. Prophets are people called by God to speak on his behalf. And we know them all: Jeremiah, Ezekiel, etc., etc. Amos today, as we read in the first reading, was sent by God to preach an unpleasant truth of God. Present of God's displeasure to his people. Therefore, Amos started his work and had many visions. And in his third vision, he runs into God's firm purpose to destroy Israel for their disobedience. At that time, it was King Jeroboam who was ruling the nation. And during his time, or during his reign, he raised the people to a very high standard of wealth and power. In other words, he tried for the people to get something doing, a lot of work. The period of Judah at that time was flourishing. Mining, agric had been improved. Population increase. New and old places built. Shrines were always full of pilgrims. People were coming in who come to offer their sacrifices and to fulfill their vows and take part in festivals. So you can imagine at that time, people were coming in. And when that happens, everything moves on smoothly. Then also, when it becomes that, when that thing happens, acquiring money becomes the order of the day. Cheating. People who want to cheat so as to get money. Therefore, Judah at that time, the rich and the merchant were doing all these by exploiting the poor, oppressing, ill-treating them, and taxation were very high. And even selling the vulnerable among them into slavery. Even selling a human being for a pair of sandals. It was during such period Amos was sent to denounce their bad deals, lies, and hypocrisy, that God has no interest in their prayers. God has no interest in their songs, their incense, and their feasts. And that was Amos. It applies to us the same thing. If you go about in our daily duties and we cheat people and we bring in what we have, we think God is very happy with that. No. People around us will see we are donating, we are helping. But in one way or the other, we are doing nothing before God. Therefore, in prophesying and predicting the assurance, with assurance, the death of King Jeroboam II by sword, and the going on exile of the Israelites brought about priest Amaziah on his feet. On hearing this, he stood up and he rejected Amos' message, thinking Amos was undermining him. Amos was preventing him from preaching. But that was not the case. He was giving the message of God. Hence the readings. Off with your visionary. Flee to the land of Judah. There end your bread by prophesying. Amaziah told Amos not to prophesy there, because he knew what he was taking. He knew what he was having. Amos the prophet defended himself and showed who, where, when, how he became what he is. Who, Amos, said, I was not a prophet. I was just called. I am not a prophet. I was called by God from the village to come in and deliver a message. Therefore, if you like, you can accept or you can reject. But it was perfect. It was true. Fellow Christians, let us always glorify God for giving such authority to men to proclaim the good news of salvation with courage, insight, and tenderness. Therefore, to expel God's prophet or priest and shut our ears, our mind to his teaching or his counsel may silence our troubled conscience for a moment, but will not restore our social health or promote our true human welfare. And I repeat myself here. To expel God's prophet, God's priest, and shut our ears and our mind from their wise counsel may silence our troubled conscience for a moment, but will not restore our social health or promote our true human welfare. And we saw this exactly when John the Baptist started preaching. He told Herod, when John preaches, he accepted, but he was not very happy because of what he was doing. And John was saying exactly what Herod was doing. And that is exactly what the readings of today telling me, just as you. Things we have been doing that we need to change for the best or for the better. Like Amaziah, the priest, most of us priests and leaders, because when I talk of priests like us and leaders like you in your family, in your workplaces, in your schools, in your marriages, because of our position and the little money we get from the service we render, the service we provide, being it preaching or managing, controlling the business, we do not usually want to speak or to tell the truth. Most of us are liars, hypocrites, and excuse my word, hypocrites. We think we're deceiving people, but we're deceiving ourselves. We think we're deceiving God, but rather deceiving ourselves. We sometimes keep our mouth shut, although we see many injustices in our home as leaders. There are leaders among us who see so many things going on bad in their family. But how do I talk about it? There are some who in businesses, in good workplaces, seeing some people do not work and they are earning money. But if you speak, you are doomed. In schools and even in the church, in our churches, there are some being priests or laity, doing so many things. But woe to you, and you speak on it, and you see what will be done to you. Sometimes the authority involved don't want to hear or accept their fault because they may be the so-called backbone of the church or the institution. Backbone. In other words, they are those we rely on. Right? What is backbone? It was God who made you that. Fellow Christians, it is by time we allow ourselves to be talked to and change for the benefit of the gospel so as not to be punished. Therefore, as leaders and priests, we don't want to carry your burden and die because of you and be punished. So we will cease not telling you the truth. Because we know Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and so on, especially Jeremiah, because of things he will not want to speak. But if he speaks, they want to kill him. But he do not speak also, he's also dying. Therefore, in the scriptures we hear that if we speak to them and they change, we don't have any problem. But if we do not speak, if we don't tell you, and you die, we are going to be responsible. But I don't want to die because of you. Neither Father Keith want to die, the bishop want to die because of you. However, we can die for you. But not that we tell you and we are not changing. Because a lot of people don't want to change. But change is very necessary and it's very good for human beings, especially as we strive towards perfection. However, in speaking to you, as priests speaking to you, as leaders speaking to you, we need to be much considerate in our presentation and not forget that the measure used in measuring you will be used also on us, in measuring us as well. Therefore, whenever we're speaking, it is only few who just stand before the congregation or to say so many things. Sometimes when you hear, you become very mad. Or a laity standing, speaking to the priest, in that order, vice versa. We need to remember, measure using on you will be on us as well. Fellow Christians, the preaching task of the priests, the deacons, and the catechists is to announce the good news of truth. Not only in good times, but also in bad times. And all other engagements are secondary. Because God is always at the side of those who speak for him and in truth. Therefore, we do not wait until it's very good time that we have to speak to you. No. Good times and bad times as well. Hence, the church is asking us today to reflect on such a reading so as to know what to do. A person do not or should not become a preacher to earn his livelihood, but such is the attitude of some priests and some leaders. Greed has overtaken us. As we begin with our preaching task, we are to rely on God's help and not on human power. It is God who helps us. The soul of the people must be the first priority. And that's exactly what the church wants his priests to do, and exactly what we have been doing now in our churches, and especially here in our cathedral parish. That is why we ask you to come to church, to do this, and most people are doing, and we thank God also for that. And we thank you also as well. Hence, Christ listed the instructions to be followed by his disciples on their preaching tour, stated in the gospel, that they need not to go out with two things, rather one tunic, and how possible, using one coat, one outfit throughout. Meaning there is people there to help you. He said you need to go with staff as you lead them. And in some versions, he say even sometimes do not greed, so that you concentrate much on the work. But the joy is say, stay where you will be and eat what will be given to you. Their task, according to Christ, was to speak in his name and to act with his power by healing the sick and to cast evil spirits. This, the apostles followed and did wonderful work, which continued even this time. The people of God, in other words, you, the laity especially, on the other side, are to support those who preach the good news with things that will sustain their service. That you need to provide us with things. And I bet you people are doing. People do. And they know the reason why. And they continue doing. But some do not. Hence, we are today saying all these things. So that those of us who have not started will continue knowing what to do. So the question is, do I pray for the work of the gospel? And do I support with my material and financial resources? You'll be marvelous to hear there are some people who do not contribute to their church. A lot of people. Here there's no problem. We don't have much problem here. But some people have been in the church for a very long time, a longer time, and they don't pay anything. And how do we go forward? But some people are doing what are doing so many things that when you hear and you listen, you think they are mad. They are not mad. And even sometimes, after ordination, people will strive to get a car for a priest so as to go and work. While the same person providing this money is working, don't have car. What is this? Is he mad? No. He knew what he's doing. Therefore, those of us who are not contributing, who are not making use of the opportunity we have now. We see, when we have life, this is the time where we sweat, where we feel, where we taste. It's the time that we can do better. Because Christ himself confirmed the benefit of doing that. As you read the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 40, Christ confirmed it. So there is no doubt about it. Those of you who have been doing, don't think you are doing it for doing sake. No. He said, anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. Whoever receives the prophet will receive prophet reward. And whoever welcomes righteous man will receive righteous man reward. Therefore, if you receive a seminarian in your house, you receive a reward, a seminarian reward. That is why sometimes when we are home, here too we do ours differently. Home, as I'm celebrating Mass, let's say today people are celebrating first Mass. Yesterday my diocese ordained 12 priests, 12 young men. And today, most of them are celebrating their first Mass. Then you go, you see people trying to help the priest so as to work. And above all, chapter 10, verse 40, it says, anyone who give a cup of water, the cold water, to these little ones, my disciples, will certainly not lost his reward. Therefore, you will surely gain your reward. The irony is, sometimes you not get it money in your hands. But what we need not to forget is our soul, the last day. And because we do not see it, some people don't mind. After all, when I die and go. You are not gone. You are still there. It is upon this that St. Paul, in the second reading of today, speaks to the Ephesians of the gratuity of the Father, which is an invitation to share generously with their neighbor the gift they have received and be faithful. Therefore, let us try and share what we have. In fact, when you read the book of Corinthians, it is good you give, because it is God who gave us and help us to do the best. I will need your help, or I will need your support, both spiritually and materially, in my apostolate as a priest. And you also need my assistance as a laity. Hence Christ, in the gospel, sent the apostle 2 by 2. Those of us who go on visit, when we go to the forest where we have a lot of animals, there are some type of animals, they move in pairs. You know the purpose? The purpose is, we see, these hunters are very bad, or these animals, the wild ones are very bad. Therefore, if you are not lucky, as you eat, you eat, then it comes. Therefore, when one is eating, the other one is also watching. When you see something coming, then they all leave, they all go away. That's the purpose. Therefore, I care for you just as you also care for me. However, remember, all our natural gifts of endowment are never enough without the providence of God. May God continue to help us so that we use the little we have. When I talk of riches, it doesn't mean having money, because not all of us will be able to give money. But our energy, our strength, our mind in helping in the propagating of the gospel is very necessary, as long as we continue on having life in us.